people who discovered a dark family secret. What was it and how did you find out? I just found out my grandpa had a whole second family in another state. Wondering what other crazy stuff people have uncovered about their relatives.
I always thought the smell of lavender was comforting. Mom planted it everywhere, along the walkway, beneath my bedroom window, in thick patches around the garden shed. She said it helped her sleep. Now I understand it was never about sleep. I was 17 when I found the first journal. It was a Tuesday, one of those gray November afternoons where the house feels too quiet. Mom was at her book club, the one that met every third Wednesday of the month but somehow also every time someone new moved to town. I was looking for my birth certificate in her closet. I needed it for my driver's license application, when the shoebox fell from the top shelf. It didn't contain shoes. There were photographs. Dozens of them. Men and women I didn't recognize, all smiling at the camera with that particular stiffness of people who don't know they're being observed. And beneath the photos, a leather journal, the pages soft and worn like old money. I shouldn't have opened it. March 15th. The accountant from Cedar Falls. He asked too many questions about the property taxes. Buried near the old well. Lavender planted. My hand started shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. But I kept reading because somewhere in my mind, a horrible equation was solving itself. All those nights Mom came home with dirt under her fingernails, all those business trips, all those times she'd stare at strangers just a beat too long. June 2nd. The hitchhiker. Wrong place, wrong time. Poor thing. She's under the rose bushes now. I do feel guilty about this one. I counted the entries. 23 names spanning 16 years. The lavender, I realized. The roses. The garden she never let anyone else touch, the one she spent hours tending in the moonlight when she thought I was asleep. It wasn't a garden. It was a graveyard. I should have called the police. That's what any normal person would do. But here's the thing about your mother being a monster, you don't stop loving her just because you find out. Your brain splits in two, one half screaming run, the other remembering her hands braiding your hair, her voice singing you through thunderstorms, the way she'd make your favorite soup when you were sick. I put the journal back. I pushed the shoebox into the corner. And I went downstairs and made dinner. When Mom came home, her cheeks pink from the cold, she kissed my forehead and told me I was her favorite person in the entire world. Did you have a good book club? I asked, and my voice didn't shake at all. Wonderful, she said. We discussed themes of morality. She laughed at her own joke. She laughed at her own joke. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, trying to remember every person who had ever visited our house and left. The mailman from 3 years ago. The insurance adjuster. The woman who'd come to read our electric meter and never came back. How many of them were under the lavender? The weeks that followed were the strangest of my life. I became an archaeologist of my own childhood, excavating memories for evidence. The business trips where Mom would come back exhausted and distant. The way certain people just vanished from town. The nights I'd hear the back door open and close, while I pretended to be asleep. I started watching her the way she must have watched her victims. Cataloging her movements. Noting her patterns. Every third Wednesday. Every new arrival to town. Every solo traveler at the diner off Route 9. She was meticulous. Methodical. The kind of person who color-coded her calendar and never missed a dentist appointment. It made a terrible kind of sense that she'd apply the same precision to murder. I started gardening with her. You want to help? She'd looked at me like I'd offered her a kidney, her eyes actually filling with tears. You've never wanted to before. I want to spend more time with you, I said, and it wasn't even a lie. So we'd kneel together in the dirt, her teaching me about soil acidity and companion planting, and I'd think about the bones beneath our knees. She'd prune the roses with surgical precision, and I'd wonder which victim was feeding those blood-red blooms. She told me once that gardening was about patience. About understanding that everything beautiful requires sacrifice. I thought about asking her what she meant. But I already knew. 3 months after finding the journal, I made a decision. I wasn't going to turn her in. I wasn't going to run. I was going to stop her myself. The next book club was approaching, and I'd noticed her watching someone, a traveling salesman who'd been staying at the motel downtown for the past week. He was young, maybe 25, with kind eyes and a gap-toothed smile. I'd seen her talking to him at the hardware store, asking questions about his family, his travel schedule, whether anyone was expecting him home. I knew the signs now. The night before book club, I snuck into her room while she showered. The journal was still there, but there were new entries. The salesman's name was written in her elegant cursive, Kyle Hendricks. No family. No one will miss him. Wednesday. I found her other supplies too, the sedatives hidden in vitamin bottles, the plastic sheeting rolled in the garden shed, the industrial lye she ordered in bulk and claimed was for soap making. My mother was a horror movie villain, and I'd been living in the house of horrors my entire life. That night, I drugged her tea. She went down easily. One moment she was talking about her plans for expanding the garden, I'm thinking wisteria along the back fence, and the next she was slumping against the kitchen table, her teacup shattering on the floor. I caught her before she hit her head. Even then, even knowing what she was, I couldn't let her get hurt. I dragged her to the garden shed. I tied her to the chair she'd probably used for her own victims. And I waited. When she woke up, she didn't look scared. She looked proud. "You found the journal," she said. It wasn't a question. 16 years, I whispered. 23 people. 24. She smiled, and for the first time I saw the wolf beneath her sheep's clothing. The number was 24. I started before I had you. Why? She considered the question like I'd asked her about her favorite color. Do you know what it's like to be invisible? To move through the world and have no one really see you? They saw me, she said. At the end. They finally saw me. I thought about my mother's life, the absent father, the string of dead-end jobs, the way people talked over her at PTA meetings like she wasn't even there. I thought about all the small humiliations that had accumulated over the years, the 1,000 paper cuts of being a woman alone in a world that didn't care. None of it justified what she'd done. But I understood it. That's what scared me most. I called the police from the shed, her phone pressed to my ear while she watched me with those calm, patient eyes. She didn't struggle or plead. She just sat there, serene as a Buddha, like she'd always known this moment would come. I'm proud of you, she said while we waited for the sirens. You're the only one who ever caught me. That's not something to be proud of. No, she agreed. But you're strong enough to stop me. That's something. The police came. The FBI came. The news trucks came next, turning our quiet street into a circus of flashing lights and shouted questions. They dug up the garden, extracting bone after bone from beneath the lavender and roses, the tulips and hydrangeas. 24 people who had trusted the wrong woman, who had thought the sweet lady in the floral dress was harmless.